Welcome to Curiosity, the podcast where science meets wonder. Join us as we explore the fascinating, the innovative, and the unexpected, from the secrets of the cosmos to the marvels of everyday life. Each episode takes you on a journey to uncover the knowledge and stories that fuel our endless quest for understanding. Let your curiosity guide you.
Have you ever been in that moment? Maybe you were working on a complex spreadsheet or cycling a difficult trail or just, deeply engrossed in writing a report, and suddenly everything just vanishes.
Yeah.
The internal chatter, the noise, that endless to-do list, it all just goes quiet.
And time does something strange.
Time warps, yeah.
Yeah.
It shrinks hours into what feels like minutes. And you're not thinking about the effort, you're just executing. Perfectly.
Seamlessly. As if your hands or your mind are on this kind of perfect autopilot, but with superhuman skill.
Right.
It's a universal state, really. It's a peak state.
Yeah.
And it gets described with different language depending on, the domain.
The athlete calls it the zone.
Exactly. The programmer calls it deep work. The musician, they might call it being in the pocket.
But it's all describing that same profound, almost magical state where your capacity for action and your awareness just merge.
And you perform at the absolute peak of your ability without any conscious strain or effort.
Exactly. And that is what we're talking about today. We are taking a comprehensive look at this optimal experience of consciousness.
We're going into the phenomenon of flow states.
And this isn't just, being focused. It's not just concentration. This is about achieving an altered state where performance, creativity, and satisfaction all peak.
At the same time.
All at once.
And for you, the learner, getting a handle on flow is, it's perhaps the highest leverage insight you can get.
How so?
It's a direct, scientifically reliable shortcut to unlocking higher levels of output, mastering new skills faster, and maybe most importantly, finding a deeper, more enduring sense of fulfillment.
So this is the playbook.
This is the playbook for getting your brain to deliver its absolute best performance pretty much on demand.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's a monumental topic. We've synthesized a wealth of material here, everything from the foundational psychological research that first identified this state,
all the way to the most cutting-edge neuroscience that shows us exactly what's going on in the brain when it happens.
So our journey today is going to take us through 4 key phases. First, the discovery of this optimal state.
Then what it actually feels like subjectively.
Third, the precise neurological shift that makes it all possible.
And finally, the practical triggers you can use to reliably initiate it in your own life.
So let's start at the very beginning. Where did this whole concept of flow even come from? And why was it so challenging to our previous understanding of human happiness?
Well, the scientific pursuit of flow really began back in the 1970s. It was spearheaded by the renowned Hungarian-American psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
And he wasn't even looking for flow initially, was he?
Not at all. He was grappling with a much more fundamental question, really one that underlies a lot of human existence. What truly causes deep satisfaction and fulfillment?
The kind that lasts?
The kind that lasts, exactly. As opposed to just, fleeting moments of pleasure.
And it's so important to emphasize that distinction he was making, right?
Yeah.
Pleasure, like eating a great meal or relaxing after a long day, that's easy to understand. It's about fulfilling a basic need.
Right. It's a biological or psychological need being met. He was looking for something that went way beyond mere gratification.
He was interested in these paradoxes of enjoyment he was seeing.
That's it. He saw people voluntarily engaging in activities purely for the joy of the activity itself. And these were activities that were incredibly demanding, sometimes risky.
Or required immense personal sacrifice.
With no immediate or obvious external reward.
So his research question was really, why do people do these things? Why engage in behaviors that require so much effort that might even risk their physical comfort for a reward that seems to be entirely internal?
And to answer that, he embarked on thousands of interviews across just an incredible diversity of domains. His initial study subjects were fascinating. We're talking about artists who would paint for 48 hours straight without even noticing they were hungry. Rock climbers who risked their lives on these treacherous ascents for absolutely no monetary prize.
Yeah.
Dedicated chess players, composers, dancers.
And even surgeons, right? Performing incredibly complex procedures.
Yes. And what he found across all these seemingly disconnected fields,
from a factory worker to a surgeon,
was this striking, unbelievable consistency.
In what way?
That's the profound realization. It didn't matter what the activity was or the culture or the person's socioeconomic status. When they were fully immersed, they all described a remarkably similar set of subjective feelings.
They lost themselves.
They lost themselves entirely. Time seemed to stretch or compress dramatically. The activity felt effortless.
And intensely focused.
Exactly.
And that universality is what led directly to the name itself, isn't it?
It is. People kept using these metaphors related to water.
Like what?
Things like I was flowing, or I was carried by the current, or it felt like a stream. So Csikszentmihalyi simply adopted the most common descriptor they used, flow.
And the key takeaway from this pioneering work was that flow wasn't some, mystical state reserved for elite performers.
Not at all. It was a universal human state, available to anyone in any activity as long as the right set of conditions were met.
Okay, that makes sense. But why was this discovery so revolutionary for psychology at the time? How did it challenge the prevailing models of human motivation?
It struck directly at the heart of 20th century motivation models. I mean, if you look at the dominant schools of thought back then, they had these very clear, often kind of pessimistic views on why we do things.
The Freudian view.
Right. The Freudian view suggested we are fundamentally driven by seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, a hedonistic tension reduction drive.
And then the behaviorist view.
Which reduced motivation entirely to stimulus response and seeking external rewards.
But flow didn't fit that mold at all.
Not even close. People entered this optimal state during activities that were difficult, challenging, sometimes physically uncomfortable.
And specifically, without the promise of some immediate external reward like money or status.
In fact, they would often actively ignore those conventional pleasures like eating or sleeping just to maintain the state.
So the motivation was clearly internal. The reward wasn't the goal.
The process itself was the reward. And that distinction forced Csikszentmihalyi to coin a key concept, the autotelic experience.
That's a term the learner really needs to know. Can you break down the etymology and the significance of autotelic for us?
Certainly. It comes from two Greek words, auto, meaning self, and telos, meaning goal.
Self-goal.
An autotelic activity is one where the goal is the self, meaning the activity is its own reward. It's inherently self-justifying.
So you're not doing the activity for something external, like a paycheck or a diploma.
Exactly. You're doing it because the quality of consciousness it produces is so intrinsically valuable and immediately satisfying.
The activity justifies itself by the sheer quality of the experience it provides. And why is this so critical for our listeners to grasp?
Because, crucially, the research showed this powerful correlation. People who experience flow regularly reported significantly higher life satisfaction. And deeper fulfillment.
Deeper fulfillment, greater overall happiness. And this held true regardless of how much money they made or how, conventionally successful they were.
Wow. So it completely shifted the focus. It's not about external success leading to happiness.
No, it's about optimizing the subjective experience of life itself. The conclusion was radical.
Which was?
That the intentional pursuit and cultivation of optimal consciousness of flow might be a more reliable path to fulfillment than the mere accumulation of external goods or fleeting pleasures.
It suggested that fulfillment isn't found in, leisure or passive consumption, but in deep, effortful engagement.
Precisely. It really transformed our understanding of human potential.
Okay, with that foundation laid, let's move into what the state actually feels like, because we're not just talking about generalized concentration here.
Not at all. Flow is a highly specific, very distinctive state. And Csikszentmihalyi identified 9 characteristic features that define this subjective experience. Walking through these is, I think, the first step toward consciously recognizing and cultivating the state.
This is the phenomenology of flow, the subjective data, and it's essential to understand that all 9 of these points, they usually occur simultaneously. They create this unique, unified experience.
Okay, feature number 1. Complete concentration on the task at hand.
This means total cognitive absorption. Your entire mental capacity is channeled into the present task.
There is zero bandwidth left over for the mind to wander.
Nothing. No worrying about past mistakes, no planning tomorrow's schedule, and this is crucial.
Yeah.
It's not forced focus. It's not like you're fighting internal distractions.
It's effortless absorption.
Effortless absorption.
Yeah.
The task is so perfectly matched to your mind that your attention just naturally locks onto it. Think of a chess player in a tournament. They literally cannot afford to think about anything else.
Okay. Feature number 2, the merging of action and awareness. This is where that feeling of separation between you and the activity just collapses.
Yeah. In our normal waking state, there's always an I that is consciously doing the action.
Right.
In flow, that gap disappears. You don't feel like you are performing the activity. You are the activity.
The dancer doesn't think, now I must move my leg this way.
No. The movement simply happens, seamlessly integrated with awareness. The musician isn't playing the notes. The music is playing through them.
And that seamless merging leads directly into feature number 3, which is, I think, arguably the most liberating of all, loss of reflective self-consciousness. The inner critic, that part of the brain that generates self-monitoring and social anxiety, it temporarily just vanishes.
I think this deserves a bit more attention because it often feels counterintuitive. I mean, we're always told that self-reflection and critical thinking are essential for improvement.
Right.
So are you saying flow is essentially a temporary avoidance of that critical self-awareness?
That's a great question, and the research really suggests yes, at least in the moment of action. What's fascinating here is the irony. That internal narrator, that self-monitoring system, it actually drains significant cognitive resources. So when it temporarily shuts down in flow, you free up a tremendous amount of mental energy.
You stop worrying about doing well.
And paradoxically, you just do better because all your resources are focused on the task, not on self-judgment.
It's like the neurological equivalent of removing drag from a race car.
Exactly. Okay, feature 4, a sense of control or agency.
And this isn't about controlling the ultimate outcome of the activity, which is often outside our grasp.
Right.
It's the profound confidence that you possess the skills and capability to handle whatever input or challenge arises in the moment.
So the rock climber, again, they don't control the weather or the mountain.
No, but they trust their expertise implicitly to execute the next sequence of moves. The jazz musician doesn't know the exact notes they will play next, but they trust their training to improvise perfectly.
It's confidence in one's ability to respond.
Yes, to respond effectively to dynamic situations.
Okay, feature 5 is the one that's most dramatic. Distortion of temporal experience. Time just warps.
Profoundly. Most commonly, time accelerates. You start a project at noon, and suddenly you look up, the sun is setting, and you have no recollection of the 6 hours in between.
But it can go the other way too, can it?
It can. Athletes in extreme situations often report the opposite, where time seems to slow down, giving them these extended moments to react and execute perfectly.
And that's a powerful subjective indicator that the brain's internal clock has just shifted gears.
It really has.
Okay, number 6, immediate feedback. The activity has to provide clear, unambiguous, and timely information about your performance.
There can be zero ambiguity here. When you're programming, the code either works instantly or throws an error.
Right.
When a musician hits a wrong note, the sound is immediate.
Yeah.
This tight, instant feedback loop allows for continuous, unconscious micro-adjustments to your performance.
You don't need to stop and ask for a performance review.
No, the environment tells you everything you need to know in real time.
And then feature 7, which we've established is the absolute most critical condition, balance between challenge and skill. Flow only exists in this very narrow channel.
The sweet spot.
Csikszentmihalyi called it the sweet spot.
This is the engine that drives both flow and continuous human growth. It's so important. If the challenge is significantly higher than your current skill level, you just descend into anxiety and frustration.
And eventually you just shut down.
Right. But if your skill is significantly higher than the challenge, you drift into boredom, apathy, and your mind just wanders.
So the optimal flow state occurs where the challenge slightly exceeds your current ability.
Exactly. The source material even suggests the sweet spot is quantifiable. It's roughly 4% above your current skill level.
Just 4%.
It's enough difficulty to demand your absolute A game, but not so much that you feel overwhelmed.
That 4% threshold is fascinating. But how does a listener, quantify or feel that difference in a non-athletic daily task, like writing or coding?
That's a great question. It means you have to actively introduce constraints or complexity. If you're an experienced writer, the challenge isn't just write an email.
Right.
The 4% challenge might be write this complex email using only one specific challenging rhetorical device, or explain this technical concept to a lay audience in exactly 150 words.
Oh, that's a great example.
If you're a coder, it might mean choosing to optimize a familiar function using a new, more difficult algorithm. It forces you to stretch without breaking. And that stretch is what drives growth and initiates flow.
Okay, feature 8. The activity is intrinsically rewarding. Autotelic, We covered this. The experience justifies itself.
Right. The feeling of aliveness and meaning generated by the act itself is the primary motivation. These are the moments when people report feeling most truly themselves.
Most functional, most fulfilled.
Exactly. It makes flow one of the clearest paths to generating meaning in modern life.
And finally, number 9, intense focus on the present moment.
No past, no future, only the now. This is a spontaneous present moment awareness, very similar to deep meditation, but it's achieved through active, demanding engagement rather than stillness.
It's a temporary escape from the psychological burden of regret and anxiety.
Mm-hmm. It locks you into the immediate reality of the task.
That subjective experience is so powerful. But this is where we move into the truly modern scientific breakthroughs. For decades, flow is based on self-reports, observation.
Right.
Now, thanks to technologies like fMRI and EEG, we can actually look inside the brain and see the underlying neurological mechanisms. We can finally answer, what is happening in our heads that causes this loss of the inner critic and this time distortion?
This transition is so critical because when researchers started monitoring brain activity during verified flow states, they found something completely counterintuitive.
Which was?
Flow is not about the brain firing wildly or increasing energy consumption across the board.
It isn't.
No. It's about the brain working smarter, more efficiently, by precisely and temporarily quieting unnecessary regions.
Okay, let's unpack that core mechanism. The most important neurological discovery here is the concept of transient hypofrontality.
This is the cornerstone of flow neuroscience. We need to spend some time on this. So let's break down the term again. Transient means temporary.
Lasting only for the duration of the state.
Right. Hypo means decreased activity. And frontality refers to the prefrontal cortex, the PFC, that large area right behind your forehead.
And we rely on the PFC for almost everything we associate with being human. Conscious self-awareness, planning, complex reasoning.
Working memory, language processing. It's essentially our CEO.
It's the seat of the executive self.
It is. It's our inner narrator, our time consciousness. It lets us simulate the future and reflect on the past. So when we talk about transient hypofrontality, we mean that metabolic activity in large sections of this crucial region temporarily goes way down. It goes offline.
It's like the brain CEO taking a scheduled nap.
That's a perfect way to put it.
But that still sounds highly risky. Why would temporarily suppressing the most advanced part of our brain lead to peak performance?
Because while the PFC is essential for deliberation and long-term strategy, it is also inherently slow. And it's prone to analysis paralysis. It's where self-doubt lives. So by temporarily quieting it, the brain removes several performance bottlenecks all at once.
And this directly explains many of the subjective features we just talked about.
It does.
So the loss of that reflective self-consciousness is literally the part of the brain responsible for self-monitoring shutting down.
Exactly. When the parts of the PFC involved in that self-referential system quiet down, the inner critic and social anxiety just disappear. This frees up enormous cognitive bandwidth.
And you mentioned it's slow.
It is. The PFC is responsible for explicit processing, that slow, step-by-step thinking. When it's suppressed, control shifts to implicit processing.
The fast, automatic, intuitive systems.
Right. The systems that run on deeply ingrained expertise.
And the distortion of time. Is that also the PFC?
That's another PFC function got offline.
Yeah.
The specific neural circuits responsible for tracking chronological time passing get dampened. That's what causes subjective time to speed up or slow down.
So flow is fundamentally the brain cutting the noise and removing the bottlenecks of slow, conscious thought.
And that allows for incredibly fast, intuitive action. You'd stop thinking about how to move, and you simply move.
Okay, so beyond just the quieting of the PFC, researchers have also noted these profound changes in how the rest of the brain operates. They call it neural efficiency and coherence.
Right. It's not just a region shutting down. The remaining parts start working better together.
Harmoniously.
That's a great word for it. During flow, the brain shows highly coordinated, synchronized activity. Think of it not as a solo effort, but as a perfectly rehearsed orchestra. The different regions, the brass, the strings, the percussion, they're all singing in perfect harmony. And this synchronization is key to high-speed, high-accuracy performance.
And we can actually see this synchronization in brainwave patterns, can't we?
We can. EEG studies highlight very specific changes. We see an increase in alpha waves.
Which are associated with relaxed alertness.
Right, reduced conscious processing. And at the same time, especially in more advanced flow states, we see theta waves.
And those are associated with deep relaxation, dreaming, and accessing the unconscious mind.
So the brain is achieving a state that is both intensely focused and profoundly relaxed at the exact same moment.
A relaxed but hyper-alert system.
Precisely. And as we shift control away from that slow PFC, it moves to the faster, deeper, older brain structures, specifically the basal ganglia.
Can you elaborate on the basal ganglia for the learner? Why is that shift so important?
The basal ganglia is a set of deep brain structures, and they're vital for motor control, procedural learning, habit formation. Think of it as the storage vault for all your ingrained skills.
Riding a bike, typing.
Shooting a free throw. When control shifts here, it enables instantaneous, expert action without requiring conscious thought. If you had to consciously instruct every muscle fiber every time you wanted to type a letter, you'd never write a sentence.
The basal ganglia handles that automaticity.
And flow taps directly into that high-speed ingrained system.
So the POC sets the goals and learns the skills slowly, but when it's time for peak performance, the basal ganglia takes over the execution.
That's the elegant dance. The expert knowledge you labored to acquire is now accessible faster than conscious thought allows.
Now let's get to the part that explains why flow is so intrinsically rewarding, why people chase this feeling, the powerful neurochemical cocktail that floods the system.
This is the brain's endogenous reward system firing on all cylinders. There are 5 key performance-enhancing and, frankly, euphoria-inducing neurochemicals that get released during this state.
Let's start with the motivators.
First up, dopamine. This is the primary motivation, reward, and pleasure neurotransmitter. In flow, it floods the system.
Which enhances focus.
Dramatically. It enhances focus, accelerates information processing, and crucially, it strengthens pattern recognition. But its most important role here is reinforcement.
It makes it feel good.
Dopamine makes the experience feel good, which ensures the brain registers this behavior is vital, do it again. This is why flow experiences are peak learning experiences.
And then there's norepinephrine.
That's our attention chemical.
Yeah.
It's an arousal neurotransmitter that increases heart rate, improves blood flow, and heightens alertness. The combination of high dopamine and high norepinephrine creates that state of intensely focused, super alert concentration.
The exact opposite of boredom.
Exactly.
Okay, that covers focus and motivation. What about the feeling of pushing past physical limits?
That's the job of endorphins. These are the body's natural opioid peptides. They significantly reduce the perception of pain and stress, and they create a sense of natural euphoria.
This explains things like the runner's high.
It does. And how athletes in flow can ignore or push past the initial signals of physical discomfort.
And we mentioned the bliss molecule earlier, anandamide. What's its role?
Anandamide is an absolute game changer for creativity and problem solving. It's an endocannabinoid related chemically to compounds in cannabis, which is how it got its nickname. Anandamide promotes what we call lateral thinking, the ability to make novel, non-obvious connections between ideas.
Wow.
And crucially, it significantly reduces fear and anxiety, making individuals more willing to take creative risks and explore unpredictable paths. That's essential for high-level creative flow.
So it enhances your willingness to be creative while suppressing the fear of failure that usually stifles novelty.
That's it, exactly. And finally, rounding out the cocktail, we have serotonin. This tends to be released during the cool-down phase.
The post-flow glow.
The post-flow glow. While the others drive the experience, serotonin is associated with contentment and well-being.
It's a powerful cycle then. The challenge triggers the hypofrontality.
The hypofrontality allows the efficient system to take over.
And the neurochemicals reinforce the behavior, pulling you back in.
It explains why flow isn't just productive. It's addictive in the best possible way. It intrinsically reinforces the very actions that lead to growth and mastery.
Now, let's look at the brain not just as a collection of chemicals, but as 3 interacting systems. Researchers identify these critical dynamics between 3 major brain networks during flow.
Right, and this is where we really see the efficiency put into practice.
So first, there's the default mode network, or DMN.
The DMN. This network is active when we're at rest, mind wandering, ruminating about the past, worrying about the future.
It's the physical manifestation of our narrative self.
That's a great way to put it. The sense of me as this continuous planning, judging entity.
And as we know, in flow, that DMN is dramatically suppressed.
Correct. That's the quieting of the inner critic. The narrative self takes a holiday, and the resources it usually consumes are liberated for the task at hand.
Next up, the executive control network.
This network handles focused attention, task switching, and cognitive control.
And how does the executive control network behave in flow?
It's interesting. It doesn't necessarily show higher raw activation because the PFC is hypofrontal. Instead, what it shows is increased connectivity and synchronization with relevant motor and sensory regions.
It's working much more efficiently.
Exactly. It's channeling resources without the waste caused by the DMN's noise.
So we have the inner narrator, the DMN suppressed, and the focused attention system, the executive, working hyper-efficiently. But what directs this whole operation? What acts as the brain's switchboard?
That is the job of the salience network.
The traffic cop.
The brain's traffic cop, or its priority manager. In flow, the salience network is highly active. Its job is to filter the enormous volume of information the brain receives and decide what's important. In flow, it strongly suppresses the resource-draining DMN while enhancing the executive network function, locking the individual into that intense, singular state of attention.
It ensures every single resource is dedicated to the immediate, important task.
Every single one.
This sounds like a system just perfectly optimized for instantaneous reaction and performance. We should also touch on the concept of embodied cognition. Flow isn't just a mental state. It involves the physical system working in lockstep.
Indeed. Emerging research shows flow is deeply embodied. It integrates the entire nervous system. We see heightened activity in sensoromotor regions, and the body and mind become tightly coupled. They operate as a singular unit.
And this leads to that uncanny precision and timing we see, which is linked back to enhanced predictive processing.
Absolutely. When the salience network and basal ganglia take over, the entire system, body, brain, senses, it gets exponentially better at predicting the sensory consequences of actions.
So you're not reacting to what you just saw or heard.
You're anticipating it with such accuracy that action and perception feel simultaneous. For an elite athlete, this allows them to perform complex maneuvers almost before the need for them is consciously registered,
resulting in that seemingly instantaneous, perfect action. Okay, we've established the what and the why. Now we transition to the most crucial part for the learner. How do we actually initiate this state? How do we shift from passively hoping for flow to reliably triggering it?
We have to start by rigorously establishing the two necessary structural prerequisites that Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi identified early on. They act as the basic scaffolding upon which flow is built.
Prerequisite 1, clear goals.
You have to know precisely what you are trying to accomplish in the immediate moment. We're not talking about long-term abstract goals like become a better programmer.
No.
We mean immediate actionable directionality, like fix the bug in this specific line of code or write the next 500 words of this chapter. Ambiguity creates decision paralysis. It kills flow before it can even start.
And prerequisite 2, immediate feedback.
The activity has to instantly and unambiguously tell you if you are succeeding or failing. This allows for those continuous unconscious adjustments we talked about earlier.
Think about activities that are perfectly designed for flow, like a modern video game.
Perfect example. They are constantly giving you points, sounds, visual cues, or instant failure states. You know exactly where you stand moment to moment. That tight feedback loop is essential because the PFC is offline. You need the environment to do the self-monitoring for you.
And this loops us directly back to the challenge skill dynamic, which we established is the most critical condition.
Yes. Remember, flow is a moving target. It requires continuous calibration. As your skills improve, that 4% challenge threshold moves with you.
So the engine of flow demands that you actively seek greater challenges.
What we call eustress, or positive stress. You have to seek it to stay in that narrow zone of optimal arousal. If you don't increase the challenge, you will inevitably slip into boredom and disengagement.
Which means true mastery is required to maintain the flow state over a long period. You have to be continually practicing and improving just to keep that feeling going.
Absolutely. Mastery is not an endpoint. It's a consequence of pursuing flow.
Okay, so now let's look at the practical flow triggers that modern researchers have cataloged. We can structure these into categories, starting with the psychological triggers that prime the mind.
First and foremost is curiosity and passion. Intrinsic motivation is the strongest propellant. Flow follows genuine interest.
You can't just force it.
You can't sustainably force yourself into flow doing something you find boring or meaningless. The brain just won't release the full neurochemical cocktail unless the activity is perceived as fundamentally rewarding and engaging.
So find that intersection of what challenges you and what you deeply care about.
That's the first step. Next, autonomy. Having genuine control over your actions, your process, your decisions, it's vital. Flow is inherently about agency, that feeling of being in command of your abilities.
Micromanagement kills flow.
It absolutely destroys it. Rigid systems or constantly having to check in with others, it shifts the locus of control externally. You need space to improvise and adapt.
We also need novelty and unpredictability.
Yes. If a task becomes purely rote, repetitive, predictable, the brain tunes out. The salience network stops prioritizing it. To sustain flow, you have to actively introduce some degree of newness or uncertainty.
Which forces the brain out of that low-level processing.
And demands that the high-efficiency systems engage fully to adapt to the unexpected.
And finally, a clear sense of purpose.
Connecting the activity to genuine meaning within your value system, feeling that what you are doing matters beyond the immediate task, this provides the psychological gravity to lock your attention down.
Okay, moving on. Let's look at the environmental triggers. How the physical world and the activity structure push us into the zone.
The first, and maybe the most compelling, is high consequences. When the stakes are real, whether it's physical danger in extreme sports, competitive failure in a championship, or meaningful professional implications like a critical deadline, the brain is automatically forced into a state of complete, unwavering presence.
The potential for loss eliminates distraction.
And enforces immediate focus. This is why extreme athletes report such high consistency and flow. Their environment literally demands it.
And the environment itself can be a trigger, a rich environment.
Exactly. Complex, unpredictable surroundings like working outdoors or navigating a dense city, they require constant, nuanced sensory input and adaptation. Unlike a sterile, static room, the variability demands continuous engagement.
Which keeps the brain fully busy.
And prevents the DMN from creeping back in.
And linking back to the physical body, deep embodiment.
Activities that require full, complex body engagement and coordination help quiet that planning, rational PFC more easily than purely mental tasks. When the body is fully engaged, control shifts quickly to the faster, automatic basal ganglia.
Surfing, dancing, rock climbing.
The need for physical precision facilitates the neurological shift needed for flow.
Okay, finally, let's explore social triggers. For those incredibly productive moments of collective flow where a whole team enters the zone together.
The preconditions here are structurally unique. You need a foundation of serious concentration, a shared, intense focus where everyone is locked in on the same immediate goal.
That collective focus reinforces the individual's own attention.
It creates a virtuous feedback loop of engagement. And that focus is built upon shared goals and good communication.
Clear, common objectives to minimize friction.
Right. And communication must be seamless, intuitive, almost telepathic. In social flow, a band member knows what the drummer needs before they signal it. A surgical team operates with minimal verbal exchange because they anticipate each other's needs.
And the combination of risk and familiarity also plays a role here.
It does. Shared risk creates immediate bonding and intensifies collective engagement because the stakes are high. And knowing your collaborators well, that reduces social anxiety and uncertainty.
Trust is a profound flow facilitator.
Absolutely. When you trust your team, you don't waste energy worrying about their competence, which allows your own DMN to stay quiet.
It's important to briefly note how this experience manifests differently across domains. Athletic flow is that embodied, non-conscious reaction.
Like the martial arts concept of mushin, or no mind. The body reacts without thought.
Right. While creative flow for writers or artists is far more internal. It's about accessing unconscious material, discovering things through the process.
The writer doesn't know the exact ending before they start. They discover it as the words flow onto the page.
And intellectual flow for scientists and programmers, that's about working memory expansion, rapid pattern recognition.
Allowing the individual to hold an entire complex system, like a massive code base or a difficult equation, in their head simultaneously.
The core experience is consistent, but the mechanism of engagement changes based on the domain.
And this unified framework for peak performance, regardless of whether you're climbing a rock face or debugging a code base, is why flow research is so fundamentally valuable.
We've painted this picture of flow as the ultimate state, but we have to address the necessary caveats. We need a balanced view. Flow is not a purely positive force.
That's a crucial discussion. First, the dark side of optimal experience has to address the very real issue of flow addiction.
Given that powerful neurochemical cocktail, it makes perfect sense that some people could become addicted to the high flow junkies, as they're sometimes called.
Yes, they constantly seek intensely stimulating experiences to replicate that feeling. This can manifest as escalating risk-seeking, bigger, more dangerous challenges just to maintain the intensity.
Or, less dramatically, using intense workflow to escape uncomfortable personal issues.
Leading to neglect of relationships or other life responsibilities. The pursuit of the peak experience becomes an end in itself, sometimes to the detriment of long-term balance.
There's also the profound morality question. Flow is, by definition, an amoral state.
This is a challenging concept. Flow only cares about the structural conditions. Clear goals, tight feedback, challenge skill balance.
It doesn't care about ethics.
No. If a challenging activity demands 100% of your attention and you have the skills to meet it, you will enter flow. A brilliant surgeon can experience flow saving a life.
But an expert scam artist can experience flow manipulating a victim.
Or a burglar can experience flow executing a complex break-in.
So if I were to apply that 4% challenge rule to getting exceptionally good at, say, cheating at a board game, I could achieve a peak state of consciousness, but the activity itself is meaningless or even harmful.
Flow provides no ethical guidance. It's purely a mechanism for efficiency, not a measure of goodness. You need an external ethical framework to judge your actions.
And finally, the danger of tunneling. That intense focus is flow's superpower, but that same tunnel vision can be a profound weakness.
When you are so completely absorbed, the suppression of the DMN and the singular focus of the salience network mean you can miss crucial external information.
Athletes ignoring injury pain signals.
Leading to real damage. Or professionals can become so intensely focused on solving one aspect of a problem that they miss the bigger strategic context. The tunnel vision that enables peak performance can also blind you to peripheral reality.
Okay, flow is temporary, amoral, and potentially blinding. Knowing all that, how does the learner integrate this science into their daily life? We need some practical strategies for cultivating flow.
This starts with environmental design. You have to engineer your space and your schedule to facilitate focus, because flow is a state that resists fragmentation.
So creating distraction-free zones, no notifications, dedicated quiet spaces.
And critically, eliminating decision fatigue. You have to conserve your cognitive resources for the flow-worthy tasks. Look at highly productive individuals. Many eliminate unnecessary choices from their environment.
What to wear, what to eat for lunch.
By reducing those trivial daily decisions, you conserve the executive function resources of the PFC, leaving more capacity for the challenging work that initiates flow.
Next, strategic scheduling is non-negotiable. Flow takes time to build up.
This is a vital detail from the neuroscience. It takes, on average, 15 to 20 minutes of intense concentration for the brain to spin up the full flow state.
So you have to use time blocking.
Minimum 90-minute uninterrupted blocks. Flow is literally impossible if you switch tasks every 30 minutes. You kill the process just as it's getting started.
Protect your prime time. Batch the shallow work.
Exactly. Third is focusing on skill and mindset. Flow is not random luck. It is a consequence of competency.
Which means deliberate practice is essential.
You have to work systematically at the edge of your current ability, that 4% challenge zone, to build core skills until they become automatic. It's only when the basic mechanics are automatic that the conscious mind is freed up to engage with the higher level challenge where true flow occurs.
And mental training. Things like mindfulness or meditation.
A direct flow facilitator. It improves your attentional control and trains the parts of the brain responsible for quieting that internal chatter.
And the simple but powerful mind trick of reframing arousal.
The physiological signs of pre-performance anxiety and excitement are nearly identical. Learning to consciously label that physical feeling as excitement or readiness rather than anxiety can shift you from a performance-inhibiting state to a performance-enhancing one. It smooths the entry into flow.
Finally, setting micro goals.
Don't wait for one massive, daunting project to induce flow. Break down large goals into small, immediate challenges that each fit the challenge skill balance. This allows you to string together multiple, shorter flow sessions throughout the day.
This has been a monumental analysis of the science of optimal experience. Flow is the scientifically understood state of optimal consciousness, a specific blend of suppressed narrative self, enhanced neural efficiency, and a powerful neurochemical reward system.
And stepping back, the ultimate significance, as Csikszentmihalyi concluded, is that flow is a central component of human flourishing, of achieving the good life. It provides a path to continuous growth, meaning, and self-transcendence.
And it consistently improves life satisfaction and resilience,
irrespective of any external accolades the activity might garner.
It all comes down to that paradox of control, doesn't it? You must expend immense hard work to set the conditions, develop the skill, clear the distractions, protect the time. But then, the moment you begin the work, you have to surrender conscious control.
And trust that the current will carry you. The work is entirely in the preparation, but the optimal experience is in the surrender. And the source material powerfully suggests that the structure of the experience, that complete, meaningful absorption and challenge, matters more than the specific content of the activity itself.
So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought to carry into your week. If optimizing consciousness is the key to deep fulfillment, what activity, regardless of external validation or conventional importance, consistently puts you in the current?
What activity demands your full skill and attention, silencing the critic and making you feel most fully and optimally human?
Prioritize the environmental and psychological conditions for that state in the coming days.
Find your current and start writing it.